All right. It is obscenely late in the morning or in the night, however you want to say that. It's late, it's after midnight, and I should not be doing this, but I'm going to do it just so I can get it off my chest and be done with it. Okay. Louder with Crowder, Daily Wire feud. Okay, here's my take. Here's the deal. I just want to say off the bat, I'm like 90-10 on the side of Daily Wire, right? I think there are very, very small things that Steven Crowder might have a point on, but I think he's so egregiously wrong in almost everything that he's doing that I'm completely off Steven Crowder. Now, let me give you the quick breakdown. I'm going to try to do this in 10 minutes. I know that I'm probably not going to succeed, but I'm going to give it a whirl. Okay. I'm not going to do the recap, okay? Because if you haven't been following it, I just don't have time to do that. Basically, Crowder was on Timcast IRL tonight and kind of giving his side, his final kind of side of the story, which truthfully is just more of the same. Like we didn't get any new information. He just kind of reiterated things that he's already said. Here's the thing. So here's my basic synopsis of arguments, Crowder's argument. Effectively, he keeps saying, he kind of just repeated it over and over like a mantra, that the Daily Wire is effectively penalizing conservative voices and being the enforcement arm of big tech. That's what he's saying. He's saying Daily Wire is in bed with big tech, right? And I guess by extension, other conservative media outlets who are similar in size and scope or whatever. He never did give a thorough explanation to why he left the Blaze. I'm assuming they had a similar arrangement or something that where the terms weren't favorable, or he would have stayed. So that was the thing he kept repeating over and over and over and over again. The enforcement arm of big tech. Okay. This to me seems, this was an assertion and not an argument. Okay. And this is why. We all know, everybody who's in the conservative space or who's politically kind of aware, this whole thing that the BLM has kind of sparked over the last few years, where anytime a police officer kills a black person, they say that it was murder and that they did it because they are racist. Okay. Now, people who tend to be more measured and can look at the individual situations objectively typically end up saying, no, the police officer did shoot that person, and the person may have died as a result, but that was because they were resisting arrest. They were a danger to themselves. They were a danger to others, and also a danger to the police officers. And there's any number of cases that you can look at where that's the case. Michael Brown comes to mind in Ferguson, Missouri. Hands up, don't shoot. That was where BLM and their kind of spiral of lies kind of jumped off. Okay, so here's the deal. The mechanics of what both sides are saying are the same, right? There was a police officer who killed a black person. They pulled the trigger. The person died. Okay. They're describing the same act, but they are ascribing different motives to the act. Okay. So this is, to me, what Crowder's argument kind of comes down to, because he keeps saying that because Daily Wire wants to claw back money if his content can't be monetized on big tech platforms, he keeps saying, well, the reason why you're doing that is because you are in bed with big tech, and you are essentially the enforcement arm of big tech censorship. So it seems to me like he's ascribing motive, nefarious intent to the action, which is the same, which is clawing back money, but it's not the action that's the issue. It's the why. It's the why behind it. And this is why I find his argument so absurd and ridiculous, because what does Daily Wire have to gain from being, quote, in bed with big tech? I just want to take a moment here to just insert here, The Art of War. Okay, so I haven't read it, Sun Tzu, The Art of War, but it's the most famous. It's like basically every military, uh, outfit or whatever. Basically, this has become standard reading. It's like a textbook for basically rules of engagement, right, and how to successfully engage in war. Well, one principle in The Art of War is that if your enemy is bigger than you, okay, you do not want to absorb your enemy's blow because you cannot win that way, right? So what you want to do is you want to use your enemy's strength against them, right? So they hit you, right? They attack you. You want to use their momentum, right? They're coming at you. They're attacking you. You want to use their momentum against them, right? So as they're coming at you, you want to continue their momentum such that they crash into the floor or they hit the wall. That's the only way you can beat an opponent that is bigger and stronger. So it's all about cunning. It's all about nuance and about knowing your opponent and knowing yourself. This is a very important principle in The Art of War. And this is something that to me seems to be missed by Crowder because he keeps saying, I'm fighting. They're not fighting. They say that they're fighting big tech, but they're really not. They're really in bed with big tech, but I'm really fighting for you. And he seems to think that absorbing the full blow of big tech platforms, where if they demonetize you or they kick you off their platform, that somehow that's the only way to fight. And in my estimation, at least, the Daily Wire have taken the more Sun Tzu approach. They're saying, look, these platforms are necessary to distribute our content. We cannot fight big tech straight up. Not right now. They're the 800-pound gorilla. If we take a blow from them, we are dead. So what we have to do is we have to use their big footprint against them. We have to use their strength against them, right? So we use their platform to monetize our content until we get big enough to fight them head on. But we're not there yet. But Crowder seems to me to be, he seems to think of himself as, he seems awfully self-important, right? He seems to think of himself as the pure as the driven snow, and he's the only one fighting for the people, right? When really he's just kind of reckless and emotional, and that's my perception of him. Just the way he's going about this is he's not calculated. He is emotionally driven, and there's so many things about Crowder's approach and his argument that just screams leftism. It's really odd because he spent kind of his whole career fighting against leftist ideas and ideology and exposing the kind of the error and the flaw in their thinking. And this is why I believe that he's very much emotional and irrational right now. And I think he's speaking from a standpoint of hurt and emotional drain. He said many times even in the interview with Timcast that how he was depressed and burnt out. He said something similar in his initial video, how he was, he's basically tired and thinking about quitting. That doesn't sound like a person that's emotionally healthy and stable. He had a lot of stuff going on in his life. He had surgery. By his accounts, he almost died. His wife had some illnesses and GBS or something like that. I don't know what that is, but apparently she couldn't walk for a while. They just had kids. It seems like he's just in a tough place. And then he decided to leave his current business partner, which was the Blaze, and then he didn't find a nice soft place to land, and now everybody's against him, right? He's the only person in the world who has any morals anymore, apparently. But the thing that was interesting about what he continued to say was that, to me, very much, there's two other parallels that I want to bring into the fold. One is how leftists talk about green energy, right? Because this is what they say. It's like, oh, we got to get off the big oil and, we have to cease and desist all fossil fuels right now or the planet's going to be destroyed. We have to do it now before it's too late, right? And anybody who says that they don't want to do that, it's because they're a shill for big oil, and they're just greedy and evil capitalists, right? But we the people in the green movement, we are the people of true moral purity, and everybody else is a greedy goblin worthy of demonization. When the truth of the matter is that despite the so-called obscene profits of big oil and other fossil fuels, is that fossil fuels is still the most efficient and effective way to help the little guy, right? It's the only affordable and ready and reliable source of energy we have, and it is the single most important factor in raising the living standards of the poor and downtrodden the world over. And the fact of the matter is that even it would be ideal if we could deploy these green energy standards and these green energy options, but they just aren't there yet. So what should we do in the meantime? You know, the nut job leftists would say, "Oh, if you were a person of principle, we would just stop drilling for oil. We wouldn't get not one drop of oil, not one more drop of oil out of the ground, right? We'd totally go away from coal, totally go away from natural gas, and we just we do our wind turbines and whatever garbage, green energy that's proven not to be ready. It's not commercially ready. It's too expensive. It's not reliable. We cannot store large amounts of energy in batteries. The wind doesn't blow all the time. We just can't do it right now. We can't. But the moralizers, right? The one who want to overly moralize this situation and to see themselves as the only people who really care, or the only people of true principle, they're just deceived. They're just deceived about the facts. They do not live in a land of reality. Right now, we can't go to all green energy. It's not going to work. Everyone's going to lose if we do that right now. Now, it is a noble long-term goal to get there, but we have to develop the technology. And this is, to me, an exact parallel of Crowder's argument, because he is just like, let's just torpedo everything the big tech is doing and let's go up against them. And I'm the only one with the principles and the morals, and all of these other people are snakes and they're evil. And it just, to me, it's just such an absurd and self-righteous. It's really bizarre to me. I think this is maybe the 10% I can give to Crowder. If Daily Wire, if they came to him with an offer that was a little too cold and hardball, right? So maybe we think about $50 million, right? And to us, that's a lot of money, but Steven Crowder would be doing his own production. And from what Crowder said, that operating budget would have been fine. But, and this is funny because he didn't actually directly address this in the Timcast, appearance that he made. And Tim Pool kind of, to me, it was very disappointing. I kind of expected it, though. He seems kind of like just afraid to really press Stephen on the really hard issues, which is like, for example, the fact that it was widely circulated from the Daily Wire that he countered and said, no, I don't want $12.5 million a year that you guys are. I want $30 million a year. Well, if it's not about the money, which he routinely said, then why did he counter for $30 million? Right? If it's not about the money, okay. But the point is that let's say that offer was way too low. He said, well, if you guys are friends, right? If you want to play the friend card, okay, then maybe not start at the absolute bottom baseline offer with the most aggressive terms possible, and then make Steven claw and scratch for every penny. Like, if I were to give him anything, I could give him that. But I think that in principle, nobody should expect for a person in a situation, especially when the stakes are high. We're not talking about some up and comer that was a friend and it was like, oh, we'll pay you 100,000 a year and we'll just see how it goes, right? That's probably throwaway money for them. They're talking about in the hundreds of millions of dollars investment in Steven Crowder, and so they can't afford probably to screw that up, right? So maybe some of those provisions were a bit aggressive. I'll probably give them that, and if they already had this friendly relationship, maybe they should have started at a more reasonable place. But the idea that they should, for example, as a matter of negotiating, that they should basically bid against themselves by offering Stephen more than maybe he would have even asked for, right? They can't afford to make that mistake, because if they say, oh, we'll give you 20 million a year, right? And then in Stephen's mind, well, I would have took 15. They can't make that sort of mistake, because that's a $20 million mistake over 4 years. $20 million goes a long way. So they have to start somewhere below where they think he would accept. They have to start below what they think he would accept, whatever they think that number is. That's reasonable. That's just a general principle of negotiating. And I don't want to. It's obscenely late, and I don't want to go into the ethics of negotiating, right? The morality behind negotiating in deals, right? Because some people think that you're supposed to, in order to be ethical, you're supposed to make your best offer right out the gate, and it's just a silly idea. I just don't have time to cover that right now. But the main thing that I want to say is this. Okay, no, there's one more thing I want to say. It really bothered me. It kind of bugged me how Steven Crowder kept saying, "Oh, it's not about me. It's not about me." Brother, I think you should make it about you. I don't know that Steven Crowder recognizes this, but nobody elected him the mayor of Fair. Okay, no one gave him the right. He's not a representative of every person who might ever be hired by a conservative media outlet. No one hired you as an agent. No one hired you to negotiate on everyone's behalf in perpetuity. It's none of your business. It's not about me. It's not about me. You should make it about you, because you don't speak for everyone. Just to invoke another leftist argument that he seems to be making, is like, this is the same argument that people on the left make about minimum wage, right? They always say, oh, the only reason why business owners don't offer their workers more money is because they're greedy capitalists. They just want to gouge their workers and exploit them. It's like, really? Is that the only reason why? That's why we need a minimum wage, because the truth of the matter is that minimum wages only mean that you price out low skilled workers, right? And what happens is, so you say, well, $7 an hour, that's an obscene wage. Well, $7 an hour is better than $0 an hour, because the truth of the matter is that there are many people at the lower end of that wage scale that wouldn't have a job at all. And I think Matt Walsh kind of made a claim to that effect, where basically he talked about how when the Daily Wire hired him, he was just some no-name blogger that didn't have, I remember encountering Matt Walsh. He was doing like video blogs in his car with his cell phone. That's how I encountered him, and I would see some of his stuff, and some of it was entertaining and funny, but but it had low production value, and obviously, and he talked about how initially when they did his show for the first several years, it didn't make any money at all. And they stuck with him, and he gained some polish. They increased the production value of his show, and he learned, right? He learned how to become a more polished presenter. He kind of found his lane. And I would think you'd have to say, like, if there was some sort of MVP award for like political pundits, right, for conservative political pundits, I think for the last year, you would have to say Matt Walsh would be the MVP, because What is a Woman? That documentary was basically a comet. It was a meteorite just smashing into leftist cities and obliterating everything. it had a huge cultural impact. So Matt Walsh is someone that the Daily Wire essentially built. They helped to build his platform and build his profile such that he was able to have a significant cultural impact like 5 or 6 years in, right? And the point is, he's telling people that would have been in Matt Walsh's position 5, 6 years ago, oh, don't sign those exploitative contracts. It's like, that's just none of your business. It's just not your concern. Everybody's in a different place, and people have to decide for themselves what's fair. And if two parties come to the table and they agree in principle that something meets both of their needs, who the heck is Steven Crowder to tell them that it's wrong? Because the truth of the matter is that without some of those provisions, they would probably be much less likely to bring on new talent if the terms were less favorable. So, and finally, I'll say this. I just don't understand if Steven Crowder has such a superior business model, right? I mean, just think about this. Could you imagine Steve Jobs sitting on the iPhone, right? He's got the whole thing. He's got it, right? He knows it's a hit. And then him going to like Microsoft and offering it to them. Say, I'll give you this thing. If you pay me some money and you don't, don't penalize me. If it flops, it's not going to be on me. But I'll give you the iPhone. That would be such a if it's really that good, if you really got it figured out that way, then why don't you go and build your own $500 million company? Why don't you go build your own $1 billion multimedia conglomerate? This idea that I gave them the blueprint. You gave them what? You've executed nothing. If we had a penny for every time somebody thought they had a slam dunk business model and an idea, everybody in this world would be millionaires. Everybody thinks they have a good idea until they go and try to execute it, and then it doesn't work. And then they go, maybe that idea wasn't as good as I thought it was. And the truth of the matter is, maybe Steven Crowder's approach, maybe that is the way. Maybe it is superior. But you're asking someone in the Daily Wire to drop the business model that has actually made them profitable. They know that it works or that it can work, and maybe it could use some tweaking. But they have something at least that they can say, okay, well, we built this company. We're pretty successful, so I'm not going to go basically abandon that to do what you say we should do. And talking about you have a blueprint that you've executed precisely 0% of. I'm rambling. I could go on and on and on, but I need to go to bed. I won't even speak about I thought a pastor. Maybe I'll try to find the video, but I think he had probably the best explanation of Steven Crowder's recording of Jeremy Boring. He said, that's an act of war because it's fundamentally deceptive. I mean, Steven Crowder literally called Jeremy Boring and was asking him about his kids like he cared, while all the while he had nefarious intent and war in his mind, saying, I'm basically going to use what you say to discredit you and your whole organization. I think you're kind of a scumbag, but I'm going to call you and ask about your kids while I plot your destruction. I mean, what a loser move. I mean, that is the highest form of douchebaggery that I could think of. It is such a loser move, regardless of whether or not, even if in principle he was correct about the point that he was making. That, I could go on. I mean, I really do have more, but I'm 25 minutes in and I have to go to bed. So I hope you found this helpful and informative. So till next time, friends, God bless you.